Welcome back to the show, Shaun. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Let's just get right into getting to know you better because I don't know that I know you well enough. Let's see if I can just get a little more here. If
Okay.
you, if you could try out any job for a day, what would it be and why?
Ones that I am qualified for or unqualified
It
for.
doesn't matter.
There's a lot of fun, things that would be fun to try. Like maybe just for one day, just to do it. Like a lifeguard at a water park or ones that I'm definitely unqualified for are like a therapist, or I think we've talked about before on the show, like a music composer. These are
Right.
skills that licenseship that I do not possess, but it would still be fun to do, or like fencing instructor. Again, I've never fenced before, but it seems like it might be fun to try
Yeah.
for a little bit. Stuff that I'm qualified for. I don't know. I think I'm more interested in the stuff I lack those skills presently in. I get to perform and that's pretty fun. So I don't think there's like a whole lot of things that yeah, my job is already fun. So and
Oh, that's
yeah.
great. Yeah, that's really cool that you look at it that way and that it is that way for you. That's very cool. Okay, the best trip you've ever been on.
Um for different reasons. And
Mhm.
most of them were family trips or all involved family in one way or another. Our family has, for those of you that maybe are listening to this for the first time, Rechelle is my mother, and I am her son.
Yeah.
So that's why the joke earlier. So we went to Hawaii as a family, I think twice, but can't complain about a nice tropical island that's absolutely beautiful with wonderful people, wonderful food, and then getting to spend time with not only our family, but some other family friends. That was a whole lot of fun. Going to Marin, which is just like
Mm,
sort of Northern California to visit family. We do that.
mhm.
We try and do that once or twice a year. Beautiful place, wonderful people, locations are fun, but I think it's a lot of who you surround yourself with.
Right.
And I also am not like, I have not been to Europe or anything like that. So maybe someday when I'm flush with cash. And then New York, and we went to New York as a family once, twice,
Well, as a family once.
once as a family, which was really cool to do together. And then I went for a work trip, and then you guys surprised me, which I think we've talked about one other time on the show, but that was
Mhm.
just an absolute blast. And what a like gotcha moment, of surprise. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was really, really special. Sean was at a show and I can't remember if we said we weren't going to be able to make it. I think was kind of what we said. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, not only did we make it to that show, but we got tickets to Hamilton and surprised him actually at Hamilton, which really was a very fun surprise to not only surprise you and get to be there for all these important things like you being in the show, but also being there to see you watch Hamilton, which, if you haven't seen it, people, you really need to see it. It's one of those once in a lifetime sort of opportunities, and I certainly loved it.
Yeah,
So,
my brain like sort of malfunctioned because it was like you can't be here, but you
yeah,
were. And I think you guys even asked, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, my brain just can't like,
you haven't caught up yet.
you're supposed to be on the West Coast, but you're here right now. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's one of those moments that, yeah, you're like you say, your brain hadn't caught up with the reality of what was right in front of you.
Hmm.
That's very fun. That was very fun. All right, you can have three people over for dinner. Who are they?
I'm sure there's a really long list of people if I really spent. I, I wish I was someone who could just like read a question and spend 10 seconds on it, but I really like my brain churns through every possibility and like that's why I hated multiple choice questions at like school and stuff because I would just like what I could argue all these different points and stuff. Um, for this, I just chose a couple. I tried to choose a couple quickly. People that would be fun conversationalists
There you
to
go.
have. Alan Rickman, who's an actor
Oh,
who passed, one of my favorites. Dave
yes.
Grohl, who is a musician, who just seems like a
Oh.
delightful human being and just seems very
Oh, are
down
you
to
talking
earth.
about the guy from Foo Fighters?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
He
Yeah.
just seems like a very down to earth guy who, hasn't really let all of his celebrity affect him or anything like that. It just seems like a good person. So it'd be interesting and like a good stories, good conversationalist. So
Mhm.
it would be fun to just sit down, chat, pick his brain a little bit. And then Conan O'Brien, again, just someone who is incredibly, to me, entertaining. I like
Right.
his goofy humor. He's a good conversationalist. You'd have to be as a late night host. And I would laugh. We would share good stories. He's also incredibly smart, went to Harvard. So it just seems like some
Well, yeah, and this is a really fun combo because here you have an actor who could do straight roles or comedy, and then you have Dave Grohl, who's a musician who, obviously is a good storyteller too. I can't remember what the name of his autobiography or his memoir was, but I read it and I thought it was really interesting.
hmm. I
And
just
then,
noticed, oh
yeah,
sorry.
no, no,
I just
no, go
noticed I
ahead.
don't have any women on there.
Well, I
uh,
that was going to be. I was like, oh, okay. And then Conan O'Brien, who is very funny, and I'd like to see the three of these guys together. I think that
mm,
would be really interesting because they're all well known in completely different arenas of what we would call, showbiz or
hmm.
performing or whatever. So yeah, I think that they would be really great together,
Off
and you would get to kind of, interact and probably do a lot of listening.
just off the top of my head really quickly for women, Tina Fey. Tina Fey, I mean, again, incredibly smart, incredibly funny, everything she does. Her or like Maya Rudolph, why not both?
Right.
Again, I would think good stories, good laughter. Um, Fortune Feimster. I really just want to laugh, I guess
Okay, if
is my
when the
opinion.
women come over, you really want to laugh.
Well,
Okay, that's
I
good.
think Dave Grohl would be funny and
Yeah, well, yes, I think that any grouping, the male grouping or the female grouping would end up being funny because Conan O'Brien, I mean, certainly we don't know him personally, but I don't think he can help himself. He's just one of those
yeah.
people. He
Yeah.
cannot help himself. So, yes, I think any way you slice this dinner party you're having here, it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, and I like that question. That is really, really fun. What is one thing you're proud of? And I think we've talked about this before, how we both sort of struggle with that word, but I still think,
Mm.
or we can say, what is one thing you are glad you accomplished? I mean, that, or working on accomplishing. I mean, I think there are different ways to kind of word that to where it doesn't land so much on that word proud. You feel
Yeah,
good about. What's one thing you feel good about?
well, yeah, like you said, I feel weird about the word, and I know I should probably maybe talk to a therapist about like being a little bit more like I've heard, when you accomplish something, like you should celebrate it. But I think I just sort of like move on to the next thing instead of celebrating it because I don't want to braggadocious, like nature. It's so
Mm-hmm.
skin peeling. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
hate it so much. It like visceral disgust. So it like walking that line, between what is acceptable and what's not. So I'm still improving on that. But I think one thing I am proud of right now is building people up. And
Mm.
I'm I feel like it keeps coming up in my life and I'm right now have like a boss who's really about that. One of my many bosses who's, really about that, and just pouring yourself into people and just making the world a little bit lighter. And um yeah, if we can, if what a rising tide lifts all boats, or I don't know, whatever the saying is,
Oh,
like,
that's
I
nice.
think I'm proud that when I meet people, for the most part, I'm not perfect, but I try and make the people feel welcome. I want them to feel comfortable. And then if they're struggling with something, if there's any little nugget of wisdom or encouragement I can give, I want to do that.
Right. Very nice. Well, I like that. And I see that in you. I see you do that in your life. And so, that is, I think it's a gift if you're able to do that for someone else.
I wonder
I
where I
think,
got that from.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Oh. I think we'll be coming back to that probably momentarily.
Yeah.
What's at the top of your bucket list? The top.
Well, for those long listeners of the show, I've been dealing with health stuff for a long time, and it's finally starting to improve, which is great.
Oh, thank you.
So, your thoughts and prayers as I continue to. I'm not fully out of it yet, but it's going in the right
Mhm.
direction. So right now, the top of my bucket list is I want to start a small business, and I've
Mm.
bought several books because I know absolutely absolutely nothing about running a business, and so I'm trying to educate myself and learn so I don't fall into any, little traps or anything. And yeah, I really want to start a business and, sort of going back to what we were saying, eventually become a small business owner who then treats their employees with
Mm.
dignity and respect and makes it a healthy place to work. Because I think we've all worked at places that were awful, and we've all worked at places that were hopefully, somewhat decent.
Right, right.
And it just makes your life so much easier,
All right,
like just the
exactly.
stress that gets taken off of you when you can go to work and be like, I enjoy these people. I
Mhm.
enjoy my work. It's not a grind. It doesn't feel like a taskmaster is over me. It feels like my boss is checking in, like, how are you doing? You know, you going through a family thing? That's fine. Take a few days off. Take care of yourself. Like,
Mm, mhm.
in America, we have this sort of grind and importance on the worker more than the human. And so I think we need to shift that.
Oh, I like that distinction. You really got to look at the whole person as, and I don't even like the word boss, but as the leader, as the one who's got
Mm,
maybe more responsibility. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's really, really good. I like that. Let's see. Next up, okay, top of your bucket list is the small business.
Hmm.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to see that keep coming, keep being made a reality, if that makes any sense at all.
Into fruition. Yes.
Yes, there you go. I love it. All right, a quote that's been inspiring you lately.
I am not, for those of you that don't know me, my memory is not great. It's good at remembering the gist of things, but not like verbatim. So for me to get any sort of quote right is some sort of miracle. Um, so I'm sure there's way more, but the first one that came to mind is, again, sort of going with this theme that we've been talking about. And it's from the Four Agreements, which is this like little small itty bitty book about Toltec wisdom. And one of the Four Agreements is words are magic. And we might have talked about this on the show
Mm.
before, but just in case, very quickly go through it,
Oh,
that
wow.
the words you choose, you can believe whether it's magic or not. That part doesn't really matter, but the words you choose to use with people and with yourself, really, can have the ability to build people up or tear them down. So choose
Mm.
your words wisely.
Right. Yeah. Yes,
You
that's
can you can make someone's day, and you can break someone's day by just a word or a couple of words. So play it safe, say the right thing. Again, encourage. We've got enough people tearing down. We need more builders.
yeah. Yes, that's very, very good. And I read that book many, many years ago, and of course I have forgotten all four of the agreements, but I I like being reminded words are magic because I believe in the power of words. I really do.
Mm,
Yeah, I do. So yeah, both for the good and then the not so good, of course.
yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Words are magic. Okay, time for a deep dive in, and it's kind of, I
Deep
think, going to be
dive.
more of some of what we've been talking about. But let's talk about who your favorite superhero is and why. And I know that, and I don't know about so much recently, but I know that you this is a genre you have followed certainly more closely than I have.
Well, I go and watch the ones that I enjoy. Especially I mean, I think everyone's sort of set with superhero fatigue right now. I think
Oh
everybody's sort of over it
gosh.
because they were just shoveling,
Yes.
you know,
Superhero fatigue. That is
yeah,
a thing.
again, yeah, yeah, Disney, like it's like dessert. You can have like, oh, dessert tastes good, but Disney was like Star Wars, Marvel, as much as you can eat. And it was good for a while until all of us, got sick. And now we're like, I don't want any of it. No, thank you. Um, but I enjoy Deadpool because he's a funny character. He breaks the fourth wall. Not so much like I don't really care so much about his backstory. I just think he's funny. So as far
Okay.
as like maybe more character driven, I would have to say Batman. Um,
Ah,
yeah, he's maybe a little a little moody. Maybe I don't resonate so much with that, but when I compare him to you infamously went and saw the Superman versus Batman movie or whatever,
yes, I
which
did.
was widely regarded as not
Horrible.
terribly great. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but comparing them, like to me, Superman is not compelling at all. He's a
Oh,
super handsome person who's in peak physical condition, who can't be shot with a bullet, who can fly. He can just sort of do everything. And to me, that's like, okay, like you haven't like really struggled that much.
there's nowhere to go because he's
Yeah, I mean, I
perfect.
guess he
Yeah.
lost his home planet, which is, I'm sad for you. Okay. But like something about the underdog for me, and one could argue that Batman is not quite the underdog because he was born a
Healthy.
billionaire. Yeah, so that getting that generational wealth and stuff like that. But I think usually in the comics and the movies, he's using that money to better the city. And one could
Okay.
argue the finer lines of that stuff, but it's fictional. So he's putting money towards the city. He's trying to protect everybody. He's relying on, his brain smarts, his intellect, his body. He doesn't have any superpowers. I would much
Okay.
rather watch a movie about someone. There's so many stories about the chosen one and they were always destined to save the world. And I go, oh, okay. As opposed to someone who's just a regular Joe Schmo who rises to the occasion,
Hmm.
goes, I'll do it.
Right. Yeah, in that way it is more interesting because there's more there are more odds and more challenges of you pretty much know he's going to do it, but you're not totally convinced because he's not perfect. He is going to grapple along the way and more than grapple. Although
Yeah,
that
and that's what we need more of is people who are just normal people who, you know, this needs to be done. I will do it because other people are not doing it. Not,
mm,
you know, these people who have been like for politicians and they come from long family lines of politicians and what have you. We need just normal people like, hey, I was a school teacher and I noticed that this needs fixing. I'm going to
right,
run.
right.
Cool.
Oh yeah, very good. Okay, this is totally an aside, but I'm just curious. Your
Yeah.
favorite Batman?
Oh, I don't. You mean like as far as the movies, like someone
No, no,
portraying
not
Batman?
the actual movie, the actor playing, like, I really like the way so and so played Batman. Or maybe you don't have a favorite. It just came to me.
Um, I don't.
It's
Because
okay.
he's so like maybe some of the cartoons where he's a little bit more. Oh, maybe Kevin Conroy from the animated series. I mean, he just does an incredible job. The movies, everybody does an okay job, but he's always so like forlorn.
Okay.
He's sort of hard to connect with, you know? That sort
All
of
right.
emo, like nobody understands me. And you're like, okay, cool. You keep doing you.
Oh, that's so
Do you,
funny.
what about you?
Yeah, I don't know. Gosh, that is a tough one. I'm kind of partial to Ben Affleck as an actor, but when I
Mm.
read they cast him, I was like, oh, that's just not okay. It just didn't, it just didn't feel right. But I think,
I'm sure
like
he
you
did a good
say,
job.
yeah, oh, he did, and that's the one. The Superman versus Batman, or whatever the name of that movie was, where they went through 5,000 buildings and still were okay. I mean, my gosh, was more than superhero fatigue. It was superhero apathy. I did
Mm.
not care anymore. It just, there's a line. There's a line. Anyway, yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I wouldn't have cast Michael Keaton, and yet he did a fine job. I mean, just people, I mean, it's to me, like Chris Hemsworth makes perfect sense as Thor, right? Or
Mm.
Jason
Hmm.
Momoa as Aquaman. That all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But, I think kind of casting people that you don't know, you don't think of as those actors, maybe is a better, more courageous choice.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. And
So
didn't
maybe
George Clooney even play Batman too at one point?
and Val Kilmer,
Oh yeah.
Christian Bale,
Yeah.
and
Gosh.
the Twilight guy. Yeah,
Pattinson.
Robert
Okay.
Pattinson.
Yeah, I think certain things need to be retired for a couple generations, and let's just retire them for a while, and then down the road, reboot away.
Maybe that's your job for a day, casting director.
Oh my gosh. Or who gives the green or red light for projects? Like,
I imagine Kevin
yes.
Costner as Batman would somehow enter into
He
the
did play
foray.
Superman's father in one of them. I don't remember which one it was. Yes, I don't know. But no, I would not cast him as Batman, no. Mm-mm. All right, so now it's time for you to share with us what is your superpower, because I think we all have one thing,
Mm.
or sometimes more than one, or maybe it rotates. I'm not really sure. This is a new theory I've come up with. I think it's a strength. I think it's something you excel in. Other people know it, and you know it too. What's your superpower?
I think I want to roll in like a sort of a couple of little ones into
Sure,
one overlapping one. I think
sure.
I have a strong ability to, some people call it like an empath. It just means like reading very slight social cues and figuring out how people are feeling and then using that ability to check in with people and sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier, using that to encourage people, using that through performing to make people laugh or think, um, telling stories to make people feel different ways. Again, sort of, if there's any way I can, through performance or just through myself, like alleviate some of your stress, or even just forget about, maybe you're super stressed and you don't even want to talk about the thing. Like generally, if I see someone like they seem off, something's up, I'm gonna go,
Mhm.
hey, how you doing? Sometimes they'll lie, sometimes they won't. Be like, hey, like something seems up. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. If you don't and you want to talk about something completely different,
Right.
I'm also here. Or if you want me to literally walk away right now and leave you alone because you need space, I will also do that. And I've
I'll
had
be
like,
there
yeah,
instead of
yeah,
here.
Yeah, and had the sort of answer because sometimes people need, space to process. I don't take that personally.
Right.
Actually, I do need some alone time right now. Please just like, okay, cool. You got a hug waiting for you when you're ready.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I like that. So would you say then that well, it sounds like it sort of starts with empathy for you, and then it kind of rolls into encouraging, depending on, the situation.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I think I won most inquisitive in kindergarten, I think, or something like that. Right? Do you remember that?
That sounds right.
Um, I'm not really interested in like chit chat, how's the
Hmm.
weather, all that. I want to like when I meet someone, like get to know them right away. Like, tell me about your life. Why are you the way that you are?
Hmm.
And some people enjoy that, and some people very much less so. But I want to get to know, yeah, well, how they work, um and so I think I was talking to a couple other people about this, asking people who are, sensitive and empathic towards others, like, how did you get that way? And some people, were trained that way by their family, were raised that way. And other people, you notice this sort of through line of, I had a time where I felt really awful, or people treated me really awfully, and I want to make sure nobody goes through that.
Okay.
And I feel that. And so
Mhm.
I've definitely had some times, one in particular, where it was just treated like absolute garbage. I don't want, even people I dislike, I don't want you to feel like that.
Right,
So, what can I do? How can I help alleviate that? How can we make the world a little bit lighter?
right. I like that you've been able to identify that going through a hard time yourself has given you the fuel to want to be like completely different from how you were treated.
Yeah, you could let bitterness set in and it can go a negative way, or you can learn from that and go, this feels bad. If it feels bad for me, it feels bad for everybody. Why would I want someone else to go through that?
Right,
And again, not perfect. I've messed up and tried to make amends the times that I have messed up, until somebody calls in right now and it's like, actually on the line we have so and so and they
no,
never got their apology. Uh, not perfect, but trying to really get people, because not everybody has also that training of um what would you call it? Not self-help. I guess a little bit of self-help, but like the necessary tools through therapy or what have you to process their emotions or realize your emotions are not necessarily reality, and because I have gone through that stuff and read on it and gone to therapy to try and help people shift their perspective or their focus, and yeah.
well, that's good. You have self-awareness, and then beyond that, you have the desire to want to continue to evolve and become the best you can be. And I think that's a big reason why we're even here in the first place, right?
Right? You want to get better each day,
Yeah,
and it doesn't end until you're gone, but at least you played a good game.
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I agree with that. So how do you've told us, about your superpower. You've told us how you use it.
Hmm.
How do you know how do you know?
That's a really good question. uh it's something that keeps coming up
Okay.
again and again. Like, whether you believe in God or the universe, or, mm, something connecting us all, or something bigger, there's just times in your life that things will come back up. Like I know you're sort of going through something in the last couple months where it's sort of this reoccurring theme. It almost
Mhm.
feels like a chapter of a book. Like, okay, here's this chapter. Here's what you're supposed to be working on or something. And, uh, if it keeps coming up, I sort of look at that as, oh, that's really important right now, or I'm supposed to be working on that, or so. And that's not to say on the other flip side of things that it can all feel chaotic and like what's going on, totally lost sometimes. But if it also fulfills you in a way, if
Yes,
you
yeah,
sort of feel it in your chest and go, specifically for this, like, oh, I'm so, that person seems lighter now. They seem a little less down. That that makes me happy, you know.
right, right.
And hopefully, those of you out there, have enough of a self-conscious to know that, if I don't know, stealing from a cash register gives you that warm, glowy feeling in your chest, that maybe we have to
Oh, yeah,
reconsider
we need to look at that. Yeah,
reconsider some things. So I think if it keeps showing up, if you're fulfilled by it, if people let you know, hey, I really appreciated that, or hey, you're really good at this, because a lot of people have a hard time giving compliments, you know? And so if it keeps coming up and people say, hey, you're really good at this, like take note and go, oh, am I? Okay.
right. Well, I like you saying if it keeps coming up, if you find it fulfilling, and then if people let you know, that's kind of feedback all the way
Mm-hmm.
around, kind of God, or like you say, the universe, or if it keeps being brought to you, and then you're noticing, gosh, I feel so good when I get to do this. And that's how I feel about it. Get to do. It's not a have to do. It's like I get to do this.
Yeah, it doesn't feel, talking to people like that doesn't feel burdensome. I mean,
Correct.
sometimes, you've had a long day and maybe you need your own self-care for a minute. And it's like,
Mhm.
put your mask on before you help somebody put theirs, like on a plane. But,
Right.
um, most of the time I'm thrilled and excited to, hey, let's talk. Let's try and, work through some things. And there's
Right.
so many people that have been raised in families or living conditions where they don't believe in themselves, or they believe this negative through line.
Mhm.
Maybe they're really harsh on their physique or their body. And if you can just start to counteract that and help them start to rewire their brain to go, I am beautiful.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. Sure I can work on things, but like let me just love me because I'm here right now as
Right.
this thing.
Right.
Uh,
And I really think that fear is rooted in lie, or not truth, or it's inaccurate or distorted, however you want to frame it, it's not the truth.
mm,
So, that's something that you have to sort of keep in mind when you start believing something about yourself, like, is that true? Is that true? you know
hmm.
that's
Again,
that's a whole nother podcast for.
yeah, again, really quickly, like going over the therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy, if I'm saying that word right, and cognitive behavioral therapy, they teach you like your thoughts and your emotions are not reality. And that was like a big whoa for me, because your brain is this sort of, like evolutionary ancient thing that will think all sorts of random stuff that sometimes aren't nice,
Hmm.
aren't helpful. And you have to, instead of feeding, that sort of goes into meditation, like instead of feeding that thought, going like, okay, that's just a thought, let it pass,
Yes.
you know? And like
Yes.
just because my body feels anger, letting that illogical side of your brain go, okay, my body's feeling anger right now, but did that person mean to be rude or mean? Like, oh, I know they're my friend, I know their character. I don't think they're trying to be mean. So let me just take a moment. Let my body relax, and then let me go talk to them and let me
Right.
clarify.
Right. Very good. Trying to get more information. Right. That's
Yeah.
good too. That's very good. Wow. Well, you are just full of all kinds of wisdom this morning. And it's morning for us. Wow. Very good. Is there anything you feel like you didn't get to say that you wanted to say about superpowers, superheroes, anything?
Just that I think one of the questions you sent ahead of time was, some people might not think that they have a superpower. Everybody's good at something. And that I think that's, again, what you were talking about, that fear, that negative self talk. Like,
Mhm.
there's billions of us. So we're not special, but there's also only one of you. So you are special. So it's a little bit of both.
Mhm. Mhm.
There is nobody that's going to be just like you. And maybe your circumstances are sort of sucky right now. And maybe there's a lot of negative self talk. But like, you are not just good at one thing, you're good at multiple things. And you can improve upon those things. I think a lot of the time we have a hard time, like, we think we should just be naturally good at something and then only do the things we're naturally good at. And that makes zero sense. You work at something until you're good at it.
Mhm. Oh,
So
very good point.
work at that self-care. I know nothing about business. I'm reading books, so I know at least something about business. And then I want to talk to other business owners so I can get their wisdom.
Right.
And then I don't think I'm ever going to be a big, I don't know, whoever big business people are. Um, but, but I can learn from that and I can improve myself. And so the comparisons, the expectations, like, give yourself a break,
Right.
because
Right.
then you sort of shoot yourself in the foot before you even get started. Well,
Right.
I'll never be a billionaire. Uh, You don't have to be.
Yes. Yeah,
You don't have to be.
exactly.
You could be
Mm-hmm.
a thousandaire
A
and be a
hundred
pillar
air.
of you and be a pillar of your community and be an incredible boss and lift those up around you
Right.
and be just absolutely wonderful at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, it just be patient with yourself. Give yourself some slack. Just go for it, one day at a time. One day at a time.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because I think I said earlier on that I do think everybody has something that they're really good at, either because they want to be or they've have a natural inclination or whatever it might be. There is something that each one of us has that's there to, and I really like how you broke this down, that it keeps coming up again and again, that it fulfills you, you feel that lightness. It also somehow is helping someone else. And then if people let you know, gosh, that helped me out so much. You're good at this. I mean, it just, those are sort of the things to pay attention. So if you don't know what yours is, then these are some things to ask yourself. And then I wanted to, the people that I know that I'm having on as guests, I
Hmm.
want to tell you what I think your superpower is. And I love, and this is not to negate what you said your superpower is, but for me, looking at you, your superpower is endurance because
Oh, okay.
you have had a lot of health issues. The last 4 years in particular, a lot of digestion, gut health, brain connection, all those sorts of things. And
Hmm.
you keep enduring, but it's not just enduring, but you're enduring well. So because you can make yourself get through stuff, right? But you're doing it well. And that is really incredible and has been a really incredible thing to see. And not even just in this one season of enduring. I think I look back at your entire life and all of the many things that you've been through. For me, that through line is just enduring well.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And now, like you said, you told me this, and I will, like, now be more aware of it.
Yes, yes, very good.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. You are special.
As are you.
Thanks, Eddie.